There's a lot of pressure on the 40 acres. There always is. Anytime you wear that logo on the helmet, you wear the burnt orange, there's a lot of expectations. But in year 3 for Steve Sarkisian, what's at stake? Let's zoom out even more. What's at stake for Texas as a program heading into 2023? I think the most obvious thing to talk about is where are they headed after 2023? The SEC, NFL Junior. Translation, it ain't getting any easier. You're going to see Georgia soon. You're going to see Bama consistently soon, or more consistently than you are already. LSU, all those teams that just churn out NFL prospects, you're going to see them on an annual basis here pretty soon. So for Texas in 2023, I think the reputation is very much at stake. And I'm not talking about the goodwill of the program. I'm not talking about their status as a blue blood. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the perception with them on the recruiting trail. And I've laid this situation out for you here before if you're familiar with what we do on this show. Think about the light you would put Texas in if they were to win 6 games next year. I'll take it a step further. Think about if you're a recruit, you're a high school kid, you got 4 or 5 stars next to your name, and Texas wins 6 games, and they were in your top 5, and now after they won 6 games and they're headed to the SEC, it's going to get more difficult. How do you then view the Longhorns? I think the knee-jerk reaction would be, where's this thing going? You won 6 games in the Big 12, and not to dunk on the Big 12, but the Big 12 ain't the SEC, and that's not up for debate. So you wonder, okay, how competitive will they be? 2, you wonder, how long is Steve Sarkisian going to be around? I'm not saying he gets fired with 6 games, or with 6 wins, rather. We'll talk more about that in a second. It's fair to wonder, okay, how solid is this situation? How stable is the coaching staff that's in place in Austin, Texas? Because that's a big deal to kids. It's a big deal to recruits. Playing 4 years for the coach that you commit to is something that I don't think is a stretch to say that's preferable for most high school kids. Stability. Now, flip it on the other side. If Texas were to win 10 games and win the Big 12, well, I'm a high school kid. I'm saying, man, I want to be a part of that. And it's only year 3, and they've recruited like that. They got a couple of top 10 classes, just had a top 3 class in the 2023 cycle. Where's this thing headed? This could just be the tip of the iceberg. I want in. Much less, it's in Austin, Texas. I can improve my brand. I could probably get some NIL dollars. Like, yo, I'm in, dude. Like that would be the pitch you would like to make. But again, a lot of it hinges on this 2023 season. How they're perceived by high school recruits, in the direction of the program. I think that's a very real thing to talk about right now. Because Texas has recruited well, but in the day and age of the portal, guys can leave at the drop of a hat. And you and I both know, if the perception on the recruiting trail at the high school level for Texas takes a dip, it only takes 1 or 2 classes to get you off the rails. Just ask USC. Lincoln Riley is still overhauling that roster from what was happening there before he got there. So for Texas, what's at stake? Perception of your program. Perception headed to the SEC. That is what's at stake for Texas. That's one of the things at stake for Texas, at least. Really quick, make sure you follow me on Twitter, @JD Make sure you follow me on Instagram, @JD We appreciate y'all for that. Make sure you're subscribed here, though. Again, we appreciate y'all. All right, what else is at stake? You got the perception thing out of the way. Let's zoom in now. How about Quinn Ewers? I think if we're going to be honest with ourselves, 2023 is a defining year for Quinn Ewers. Because think about his journey at the collegiate ranks. Leaves high school early, goes to Ohio State, transfers to Texas. And for Quinn Ewers, we've always known he's super talented. Like what we saw this year, I don't think a reasonable person is deterred by the times he flashed, right? Like we saw the really good at times with him. Against Oklahoma, put on an absolute clinic, passing out juice boxes and T-shirts after the game at the Red River rivalry. Against Alabama, the first quarter, we were all ready to give him the Heisman Trophy. We're like, all right, Texas is back. Let's roll. He's lighting them up in the first quarter. Then we also saw the really bad during the season. We saw the 30 incompletion game where he went 19 for 49. Yes, it's a real stat line against Oklahoma State. But think about it this way. There has always been a, but built in when it comes to Quinn Ewers. Hey, man, but he played really well at times against other competition this year. But he's just getting acclimated to college football. But he doesn't have a ton of experience around him. The offense was pretty young. They played a couple of freshmen on the offensive line. There's no more yeah, but when it comes to 2023 for Quinn Ewers. A lot of experience around him. Second year as a starting quarterback. Second year in the system. You've been in college now for 3 years. You chopped the mullet off. There's no yeah, but built in. And on top of that, there's no perfect situation that exists in college football anywhere. Bryce Young, for my money, the best player in the NFL draft. He didn't have a ton of help around him. At the offensive coordinator spot, at least, if you ask Alabama fans, they think there should have been more done for him in that regard. Right? C.J. Stroud against Michigan. Defense didn't hold up their end of the bargain. There's no more yeah, but for anybody. But for Quinn Ewers this year, I really believe we define him as a college football player going forward. For the reasons I just said. No more yeah, but with him. And also, behind him, guess who they got? Arch Manning. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of patience with Quinn Ewers if this year doesn't go the way that you expect it to on the 40 acres. So I'll just say this, 16's got to play at some point, man. Like, is he going to wait 2 years? If Quinn Ewers isn't emphatically your starter next year, or he's not gone to the NFL even a step further next year, what's that conversation like? If he has to come back for another year at Texas, I think something went wrong in 2023. I'll leave it at that. Now, here's what's not at stake, because we like to talk about all the pressure and the expectations at Texas, and those are all fair. I think we should talk about those things. But here's what's not at stake in my mind. I don't think Steve Sarkeesian's job is at stake. I really don't, and here's why. Maybe the public approval rating goes down for Steve Sarkisian, but if you make the Big 12 title game, if you just show progress, if you win 10 games and don't win the Big 12, I don't know how you fire the guy, because here's the thing. You have just now built back up to where you're now able to do something at Texas. Year one was a whole clean it out kind of situation. Bad culture, didn't have the personnel you needed at key positions. It was a clean it out, take your lumps, we miss a bowl game kind of operation. Year two, it was a build it back up. Let's get to where we can be competitive. And they did just that, won 8 games with a first-year quarterback. Year three, it's like, all right, it's time to do something. So you're telling me, at his first swing at being able to potentially do something in college football with this team, you're just going to give him 1 year? Like, they've been in negative so long, they're just now getting back to neutral and competing for positive. If you're looking at the spectrum of what Texas is as a college football team, you're only going to give him 1 year when he's at neutral? They've been fighting to get back to neutral. So for me, I think you give Steve Sarkisian at least 2 years. You got to show some promise this year is the contingency. And next year has to be a knockout. Like this year, if you can make the Big 12 title game, for me, that's the big one. Just make the deal. If we're winning 6 games, we maybe have a different conversation. But I don't believe it is a win the Big 12 where we're firing Steve Sarkisian. Doesn't make any sense. I'll put it to you this way. Are you really firing Steve Sarkisian before the Arch Manning era begins? Like, don't get it twisted. I'm sure Arch Manning loves Austin. I'm sure he loves Texas. I'm sure he loves the guys that he came in with. Arch Manning committed to Steve Sarkisian. He committed to Texas, yeah, but he committed to Steve Sarkisian. He committed to the development and the QB guru that is Steve Sarkisian. So if you fire him before Arch Manning even touches grass, I think that would be a little bit knee-jerky. So that's my 2 cents on Texas. I think there's obviously a lot at stake, but I would be a little bit slower on the draw to say that Steve Sarkisian's job is somehow in jeopardy if they don't win the Big 12. Still expecting big things, because when you invest how Texas does, when you put in as much as they do, you expect to get something out of it. It's the way this thing works, but we'll keep an eye on Texas as spring football continues to roll on. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.